What's up, everyone? Aaron Negler here with your Packers Daily Chat on the Cheesehead TV channels, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, we're on Twitter today. We're everywhere you guys are. That's why we like it. Wherever Packers fans in this world happen to be, we want to get to you, chat, talk some Packers, see what's up as the Packers get ready to take on the awful Arizona Cardinals. They're a 2-win team. Packers, a 4-win team, so it's not like you have a whole lot of bragging rights heading into this game, but Packers favored by 14. They should walk all over this team at home in Lambeau Field. Nice to see a bunch of people already on the chat. Let's get to it. See what's on people's minds. Josh starting off with, he's not a fan of get well game or statement game or prove it game, etc. All the cliches, he's so done with it. Just play like your job matters to you. No more marketing BS. Well, Josh, the thing to remember is those aren't things and phrases being used by the team. They're not marketing that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't think there's any press releases going out saying, this week at Lambeau Field, a get-well game for your Green Bay Packers. Those are things that are talked about online, maybe in sports radio, on programs like this, perhaps, but it's not something the Packers are doing. I think they know their jobs are on the line. They know that every week. So I get it. I get like being sick of that phrasing, but it's not marketing, that's for sure. Cobb is pumped. I'm pumped. I hear you, Joshua. Can't wait for him to get out there and shut some people up. MVS's targets and production have taken a decline since the Patriots game. Is it more attention he's getting from defenses or something else playing into it? Amir, that's a really good question. I mean, you look at the tape, you don't see a ton of attention being paid to him. Obviously, things are sliding towards Davante more than anybody else. It sure looks like, for whatever reason, Aaron hasn't been looking his way. He has come open deep late on certain plays, but they can't block it up front, so Rodgers never gets to him. To be clear, that's why I'm not blaming Rodgers for this. That is just Rodgers not having the time to find him deep. I think they're trying to get him deeper because of his speed, his ability downfield, etc. Rodgers just hasn't had the time to find him. You saw this past weekend especially, they really targeted EQ quite a bit, but yeah, I don't think it's so much what defenses are doing to take him away. I just think the way he's being used within the construct of the Packers offense just hasn't helped him as far as production goes. If Davante doesn't get respect because he's not the prototypical physical force, then why does AB? He's small. Well, buddy, I think over time you will see Davante start to get some of that, but don't forget, there have been a number of instances this year where Davante's had an opportunity to make a big play on the football and hasn't and/or has dropped it. The one that really comes to mind is that play in the end zone on third down against the Vikings in week 2. There are 2 throws in that play in that game, actually, where he can make a spectacular catch, and that starts to change the conversation. AB makes those catches with regularity. Davante, while incredibly productive and an absolute beast off the line of scrimmage, has yet to make any number of highlight reel catches. I remember his rookie year, even going into his second year, a lot was made of his athletic ability, his vertical, which does come on display occasionally in practice and even in games, but it's rarely for an amazing highlight reel play or a game-deciding play. And again, that's not a knock on Davante. It's just the type of receiver he is and what he has done so far on the football field this year. If and when he starts making those types of plays in conjunction with the huge production that he's shown, both last year and this, then I think he'll start to garner some of that, some of those accolades. But look, you can't argue with people who say AB is a better receiver when you look at the coupling of the production with the. I mean, there are multiple examples of just outstanding, breathtaking, physically incredible plays that AB has made over the years. Davante has yet to show much of any of that. Zook getting cold for Christmas. Banky blaming the O-line was good. I agree. I thought Corey made an excellent point. If you haven't checked out Packer Transplants from this week, do so. It's on our YouTube page, on our Facebook page. Early on in that program, Corey made an excellent point about outside of Bakhtiari and Lindsley, this offensive line has really struggled, and it's really hampered their ability to get much of anything going down the field. In an offense that's just predicated on trying to push the ball down the field, that's an issue. Are Rodgers and McCarthy in a pissing contest over the play calling credit? How would a new coach fix that? DeMario, I think that's a really good point. I think there is some validity to that. I know it was touched upon in the Sports Illustrated article that came out earlier this week. Obviously those two guys are the only ones who can really say how they're feeling about it. And I know there are unnamed sources or sources familiar with the thinking saying that that is the case, but I don't doubt, they're both alpha males. They both want credit for the production or, the things that go well, so to speak, because they certainly both get their fair share of the blame when things don't go well. But I think ultimately they want to win football games. That's their job. And I don't think there's either one of them is really going to come to the other and say, look, you've got to give me this credit publicly or what have you. I mean, we've certainly seen Aaron Rodgers try to throw McCarthy under the bus in a passive-aggressive nature recently as this year. But I don't think it's maybe as big an issue as just the complete disconnect between the two of them when it comes to the offense, personality-wise, etc. Jake Kumerow, Jonathan, he's practiced all week. We'll see. Nothing official yet. How many times can McCarthy mention footwork in his press conference? I almost wonder if it's a message to Rodgers. Well, Nick, to be clear, he was asked about it several times in that press conference the other day. I posted a clip, almost 2 minutes of him talking about footwork because he was asked about it. He was asked about it like 3 questions in a row. And I think those are good questions to be asking at a time in the season where it's pretty clear that Rodgers' fundamentals are lacking and or contributing to some of his lack of production, especially on third downs, etc. Rodgers swearing blind that he's playing the way he always has, which is somewhat true, but not entirely true. But yeah, I think McCarthy was just responding to what he's asked in that press conference. Late addition veteran wide receivers helped a lot of teams this year. Should the Packers target veteran wide receivers in free agency next year? Well, don't forget, they did so last offseason. They came close to getting Robinson, who elected to go to Chicago instead. And they had, they made a play for Sammy Watkins. So it's not like they sat on their hands. I don't think they, wanted to mortgage any kind of future for either one of those guys. But it's not like they were sitting out. I think it's a possibility to look at somebody, but you have to think with the maturation, if you will, the amount of time that the rookies got on the field this year, you like a lot of what you've seen from EQ and MVS. You got to think, they've got something there in both of those guys. Who knows what Jake Kumerow might show over the course of this last month. But the other problem here is that who's going to be the coach and what offense are they going to be running? If Mike McCarthy is dismissed and they have another coach and a new offensive system coming in, well, then all that progress, there are things they can draw from it, sure, but they're going to have to learn a new system. That would mean, I would think, maybe going out and finding a guy or two who has worked in whatever system they end up bringing in. A lot of unknowns there, a lot of things to sort through this offseason. Is Green Bay still a less desirable place for free agents? Can Rodgers still pull players in? Bully, I don't think the Packers are close to the level of where they have to truly overpay to get guys to come in, but it sure doesn't help right now with the kind of dysfunctional nature, or at least the kind of public persona that the Packers have built around them in the last year or so. They're not winning a ton of games. There certainly seems to be some kind of friction, faction between the head coach and the quarterback. So there was a time when, guys would want to come and play with Aaron Rodgers. Hell, it happened last year. That's what Jimmy Graham said. He said he took less money to come to Green Bay because he wanted to play with Aaron. If they can turn this around, start winning again, then I don't think it really matters as long as Rodgers is there, and he's going to be there for another 6-7 years probably. Can Rodgers pull people in? Yeah. But we know that the Packers bank on that, maybe a little too much, or at least they have in the past under Russ Ball and Ted Thompson. Maybe Brian Gutekunst shifts that a little bit. But if you haven't read Michael Cohen's piece on Russ Ball, I would highly recommend going and checking that out. It should be available at either JS Online or PackersNews.com. He talked to a bunch of agents on the record in that piece who talked about Russ Ball leading with that very thing. Come play with Aaron, take a little bit less. You're probably not going to make, you can probably get a little bit more someplace else, etc. So while I don't think those days are over necessarily, I do think they are limited and winding down. The Packers may have to come to the fore, so to speak, financially to get some guys in. All of that said, that last bit is key. It's all about the money. If you pay a guy, your money is just as good as it is in some other NFL city. And if you give him top dollar and a chance to be productive with a good quarterback, yeah, they're probably going to choose your ball club. But I understand why people think Green Bay is a undesirable location, and for some guys it probably is. But I don't think it's the big detriment that some fans think it is. Packers need a Reggie White player in Green Bay. Aaron, everybody needs a Reggie White player, wherever they are. Everybody would love a Reggie White. I mean, yes, please. Is there a Reggie White out there? Sign me up. Do you have faith in Murphy's ability to hire a head coach after his inaction led to the silos that were created within the Packers organization? Troy, that is an excellent question. Look, I don't doubt that Murphy has had his ear to the ground for the last year or so. I have no doubt he's kind of put feelers out around the league asking for input and advice as far as young up-and-coming coaches, or maybe, coaches who would need a second chance at a head coaching gig. I don't doubt he's looking and unearthing as many kind of possibilities as possible heading into this offseason if he chooses to move on from Mike McCarthy, which is no given. And I don't doubt he'll probably employ a search firm, which the Packers are wont to do under Murphy anytime they have a major personnel decision. As far as my faith in Murphy, I mean, I can only take the man at his word when it comes to why he did what he did when he changed kind of the front office around, and the fact that he did it within a week, apparently, after 1 week saying that the GM was going to have the ability to hire and fire a head coach, and then the next week changing. That is his prerogative as the CEO and the president of the company. I'm very much in wait-and-see mode. I mean, because ultimately it is his decision, and only he will make it. I have no doubt he will get input from Gutekunst. I have no doubt he will, like I said, ask around, etc. But ultimately, it will be his choice, and it will be his imprint on the Packers, and will undoubtedly, along with Titletown, be his legacy. He was handed Thompson, Favre, McCarthy, etc. And he has ridden that for a good long time. And as you state, I think he did wait a little bit too long to move on from Thompson, and that maybe stains his record a little bit. But if and when he makes this head coaching hire, it will be probably what imprints the biggest thing on his legacy. Because obviously Titletown is going to be part of what people talk about when it comes to Mark Murphy in the history books of the Green Bay Packers. But ultimately, people care about what happens on the field. That's the thing that people remember. They don't remember, there used to be this here, but now there's Titletown. Ultimately, that's not going to be what's imprinted in Packers fans' minds or the minds of people who watch the NFL. It's going to be very much about how they fared on the field, and that's going to be dependent on what hire he makes. So put me in the wait-and-see category there. Let's head over to Twitter, see what's going on over here. We got another Mark Murphy question. Does Mark Murphy have too much power in the organization? Seems to me like his experience isn't in coaching or being a GM, yet he seems to have the most say in the organization. Well, that's where he is, and that's, he's the CEO, and he has the right to have as much input on the football side or as little as he chooses. And at this point in his tenure, he has chosen to insert himself on the football side, and he has given that power very much within the way the Packers are set up, the way the executive committee operates, with the support of the board. It is absolutely his prerogative. So, does he have too much power? No, he has as much power as he's been given, and he is exerting it. Now, like I said, this next hire, if and when it gets made, is going to go a long way in kind of cementing his legacy. Because look, right now, a lot of people know him for Titletown and for kind of botching the Favre thing. He was new on the case, so I give him a little leeway there. But the whole going down to Mississippi and trying to bribe Favre with $20 million to stay retired, it's not a good look. Now, that's faded from public memory for the most part, unless people like me bring it up on the internet. But like I said, Titletown is the big thing for him right now. But this coaching hire, this coaching transition, along with the hiring of Gutekunst, that will cement his legacy, ultimately. Who do you think, other than Mike Pettin, should be retained if McCarthy is headed out the door? Well, I'm going to say Joe Witt Jr. because that's my boy. I love him. I think he's a great coach. I tell you what, though, if Pettin is fired and everyone is let go, I hope he goes on and gets a defensive coordinator position somewhere and is allowed to kind of spread his wings a little bit, because I think he's been kept underfoot a little bit in Green Bay. We haven't seen a ton of Oren Burks this year. I thought he'd be similar to Blake Martinez during his rookie season. Do you think he'll be a classic year 1 to year 2 jump kind of guy? David, I think the possibility definitely exists. I think he's had real issues in the run game. You've seen his athleticism when he's been allowed to kind of play in coverage, things of that nature, in sub packages. But on early downs, when he has gotten that chance, it just hasn't happened for him. I think that's something maybe where he has to get in the weight room over the offseason, put on a little extra poundage, and come back ready for that wear and tear. Because look, I think he's got talent. And as you indicate here, I think the possibility exists for a big jump from year 1 to year 2. We'll have to wait and see on that. What potential free agent would you most like to see the Packers pursue, and would you overpay for Clowney? Because somebody will inevitably overpay for him this offseason. Tyler, I wouldn't overpay for him. I know I'm in the minority when it comes to most Packer fans, or at least from the Packers fans I read about online or contact me on the internet. I think you've seen this season. The Packers, I believe, are 3rd in the league right now when it comes to sacking the quarterback, and that's with Kyler Fackrell and little else. I don't think you need to go break the bank for Clowney. Someone talking about Reggie White earlier. I don't think he would be a Reggie White type, a transformative member of your team. I think he would help. There's no doubt about that. But at what cost? I don't think they have to go and wreck their salary cap to go get the guy. That's just me. All right, and there we go. Let's head back to the live chat. Let's see what's on the minds of everybody else. Is Jake Ryan still under contract next season? No, he is not. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. If Murphy were let go down the line, who has that power? Well, Andrew, would have to be either his contract running out or the executive committee pushing him out, and I don't see that happening. Kevin King should sit this weekend. We need him healthy versus Atlanta next week. Tomorrow, you need him healthy for the Cardinals. If the guy can play, he should play. That's literally his job. And B, don't take any game for granted. We can win without Kevin King. Please, they need to win a football game. They need everybody they have possibly who helps in that endeavor to be on the field. Can you please call some slants on your Madden preview? I just missed it. Julia, I tell you what. We will be doing a Madden preview shortly after this here broadcast, as soon as we can turn this studio around. And I promise I will call 1 slant per quarter. Even that's probably too many for a preview, but I will call slants just for you. What makes Josh McDaniels such a hot candidate for hot head coaching positions? Most of Bill Belichick's assistants don't really work out. Julian, he calls so many cool plays, and he's got this offense, and it's awesome. And I'm with you, man. And you saw him fail in Denver, too. I don't know. Packers need to find balance in the draft, too defense heavy at the top. Vic, I totally agree. I think they have kind of chased that shiny object for so long. I think they really do need to kind of practice what they preach as far as when they talk about best player available. They should do that, not just be so hell-bent on trying to fix the defense with the draft. Is the executive committee the Cheesehead TV patrons? Yes, Andrew. Every executive committee member is a member of our Patreon. No, I'm kidding. You play to win the game. Thank you, Nicholas. I think McCarthy is planning to leave this year, too. They'll mutually part ways. Roy, that is a possibility. He does still have 1 year on his deal, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was a melding of the minds, so to speak. How much longer until Mike Daniels returns? No idea. It's a possible situation where he may not return at all. That's the way he was kind of talking last week. We haven't heard anything about him this week. All we know is that he will not play on Sunday. It's a bit tiring talking about the draft already. Well, welcome to being 4-6-1 on the doorstep of December. A lot of people have been asking me about, run the table and all these things that need to happen for the playoffs. And this is what pisses me off about this season. They have squandered and pissed away the one time of year I absolutely love. And that's December football in Lambeau, getting ready and geared up for a playoff run. Now I can't even enjoy that. Because sure, maybe they beat some piss-poor team like the Cardinals, but ultimately they need all this other crap to fall their way. And we're here and we're so close to none of these games meaning anything. All they needed to do was win a game or two in this stretch since the bye week, and they couldn't do it. They just pissed the whole month of November away. It just makes me mad. Will Fackrell be Sackrell again this week? Yes. Lance Kendrick's coming back next year? I doubt it, but you never know. Could you see the offensive coordinator from New Orleans being a good fit with Rodgers as the next head coach? Len, I think Carmichael is a good coach. It's so hard to say for a guy who has been a coordinator for a very long time, has never really been the play caller. I know he has called plays in the past, especially, the whole issue with Peyton being suspended, etc. He hasn't been their primary play caller. That's always kind of a hiccup when teams are looking to hire somebody, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But hey, I don't, dismiss it out of hand. I mean, I think a big chunk of that would be how Mark Murphy feels about it. And no way to know that. Can our O-line keep Rodgers clean against the Bears? No. Packers will win out. Packers will miss the playoffs. McCarthy will stay, and we'll repeat this season next season. Samuel, I would be absolutely shocked if any of that occurred, actually. Tommy says, Pack 42, Cards 13. You heard it there first. Tommy has got it all sorted for you. All right, everybody. I'm going to jump. We're going to get ready for the Madden preview. Thank you so much for all your questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours, but hey, watch our Madden preview. Corey and I chat the entire game. We answer tons of questions, so if I didn't answer it here, maybe we'll answer it there. Like our page on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, join our Patreon, Cheesehead TV on the Patreon page. Thanks a lot, everyone. We'll see you at the Madden preview. Have a good night.